Good day everyone, so look at Kokomi posing here in King Deshret's mausoleum, or whatever this area is called. You can't really come back here unless you place a teleporter or do some other shenanigans, but that's not what this video is about. I actually want to talk about this character, or actually the Pneuma or Ousia mechanic that is tied to Fontaine characters and why I believe that it might be too much of an advantage. So today's video is really just a very chill discussion video. This is all in relation to one of the comments I got on my Lynette vs Xiangling video, where the person says they don't really think this mechanic is as advantageous. So this is what we'll be discussing today. So this is not really so much a debate as me offering my perspectives, and obviously you guys can read through the perspectives offered here. So the one interesting argument that we probably need to address here is that there are obviously combat advantages to this, and there are obviously overworld advantages to this, and we'll need to address both of them separately. So from my perspective, just before we get into this, the mechanic that Fontaine characters have is given to them by default. It's not fundamental to their kit. Someone like Yelan fundamentally has her exploration advantage. It's tied to one of her abilities. It's tied into her kit. It's fundamentally baked in, whereas Lynette here would work just as well. You'd gain zero, there'd be nothing that would be broken in her kit if you remove the Ousia or Pneuma mechanic. It is literally just given to her for free of charge. And this is immediately the problem I have. So from a combat perspective, like I showed in my video previously, you now have a situation here, let's just quickly go forward, where the enemy has a cryo shield. You'll see it popping up in just a bit. There's the little cryo shield, and all I do is I press one button and boom, it is gone. It's disabled. You can even see the little halo effect here. Whereas in contrast to that, I actually had to use the entirety of a Bennett, a Kazuha, and a Xiangling to break this. So I had the Pyro here from Bennett on the floor, the Swirling, and of course Xiangling's Guoba and Xiangling's Pyronado, and I'm not doing it even as fast as Lynette with just literally pressing a button. But more importantly, this was a cryo shield. In Lynette's case, it doesn't matter if it's a cryo shield. So right here in the beginning, you see here there are other enemies that might have a geo shield or a dendro shield. And what is Lynette going to do? Hopefully I can get to a point here. All she's going to do is literally, once again, press a button, and that entire geo shield is gone. So this is the problem I have. Even if you can work around the combat advantages that this Fontaine mechanic gives you, it's not that you can have a single solution that will always work in all possible scenarios. That's the thing. Getting a workaround or compensating for an advantage that another character has without any downside for that character is not the same as being able to always get over that advantage. And this is my problem because of the usefulness of what these characters have, whether they've got Pneuma or Ousia. It's just too much in comparison to what we're already used to in the game. So yes, you might say to me, but hey, listen, there is the Golden Wolf Lord here and you need Geo, or if you're very clever, you can use Nilo's Ring to beat him. And I do get that certain enemies have certain mechanics that are easier to beat with certain characters, but fundamentally that is tied to the elemental system in the game. We are all used to the fact that I've got different type of elemental characters, that I've got sword users, catalyst users, bow users, and the weapon types in and of themselves also give you relative advantages and disadvantages in combat. So really what I'm arguing here is the fact that even though there are natural advantages and disadvantages in combat and with exploration that you get, those are expected. They've always been baked in since the conception, since the start of the game. Whereas here you have a new Ousia mechanic which is stacked on, and it literally just gives a ton of benefits. So for instance, a lot of people have said that Kirara has obviously had a bit of she introduces exploration creep, which I don't think is fair to say, because you actually have increased stamina consumption as you use Kirara. That is what is told. We know this from her kit. It says here increased stamina consumption. So the advantage she has a bit of a drawback. It's the same here with Yelan. you don't get Yalon for free. You need to spend resources, primogem, currency, effectively your time in getting the resources to pull on the character, and then the character becomes useful. The advantage of running around is obviously given to you at the price of you having to gacha for the character. If I want 2 advantages, you can see I've got 2 charges on my Yalon, well then that comes at the cost of having to give up potentially having another 5-star characters because I had to get a copy of this character. With Lynette, it's literally tacked on, it's given for free with the character, and this is where things get more crazy to me. If in the Spiral Abyss I get different types of enemies that are going to come up, Lynette can more easily deal with them, but I would have to use different type of characters to overcome that advantage. But notwithstanding the different types of enemies, in the overworld this is also very, very egregious. So for one, when you go to the underwater regions, you have obviously the Pneuma Ousia mechanic enabled by default underwater. This is just crazy. You can see Lynette has it, Kokomi doesn't. But Lynette has it, and what this means is that, look at my stamina bar is going down, but as I'm now traversing, I'm actually gaining stamina back with the dolphin dive. Any of my other characters, if I want to go fast here, I'm losing stamina. So when I'm running out of stamina, I'd have to wait before exploring, whereas these characters will just literally allow me to traverse even faster. I can solve the puzzles a lot faster, and all of the little time here really starts adding up. But even more importantly, when you go here into the overworld, some of these puzzles are more egregious than others. So yes, whilst you can technically do a quick little flashy Yalon, get the block, and boom, bam, you've solved the puzzle, it's not always going to be that easy. I think there is supposed to be, here it is, it's a puzzle right here. I've already done it, so there's no point. I'll try and see if I can't get a clip of me doing this in the past, because I normally record some of my gameplay sessions. So if you see it right now on screen, hopefully you'll see it. But if not, in any case, this is what happens. There is a puzzle right here. If you have Lynette, you press E, you unlock it, and you go on your way. But no amount of Yalon, of Kazuha, of Wanderer, whatever, is going to quickly give you as quick of an advantage in order to get that block. So you either climb the tree, or you have to waste time to get this very specific block, and then you can come down and solve the puzzle. And even in the little case of Kazuha, that is so brilliant and so awesome that, like everyone says, all that I need to do is just swap to this little gadget, I do this, and now boom, now I can even do this much faster than even Kazuha Wanderer can. That's the thing. So there are different ways as well, again, that you can work around the exploration advantages that some characters have, but you can't always just, yeah. That's the point I wanted to make. Yes, the other thing. So, oh no, I can't get to this. I don't have Kazuha. Oops. Here's my little gadget that just like propelled me up. That's the point I wanted to make. So even if I couldn't get there, you just use the Fontaine gadget or whatever. So even with the supposed exploration creep that you have with Kazuha and all these other characters, there are also ways around them. But the problem is there is no consistent way around being given an advantage in the overworld, in the waters that you get here, and against enemies of different elemental shield types that this character, by the press of a button, can destroy for free. And you might be saying, but listen, my teams are better than any Lynette team I have, and that's actually what we also showed in yesterday's video. For those of you that saw it, we did beat this enemy slightly bit faster without Lynette than with Lynette. But the point is, what happens when I don't have Lynette anymore but a different Fontaine character? In that case, that Fontaine character will still have the advantage, but now they can clear this even faster. It would be very crazy, let's say instead of having Raiden Shogun here, you have someone like Clorinde, and what this now means is that with, assuming she works in this exact same team or an equivalent team, you would be able to do this even faster. That's the thing. even if you can beat Lynette, the very mechanic that's now going to be given to all future characters is one that you're not going to be able to beat that easily. And you'll still get all of the benefits here in the overworld and everywhere else. And in fact, what's interesting to me about the overworld is that a lot of the blocks that you get here, the Pneuma or Ousia blocks, are purple ones. Maybe it's just my bad memory. I've explored a lot of this region already, 80% whatever. But as far as I could tell, it's more often than not that you get the purple blocks than the other blocks. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. But in any case, you can see that there is an advantage to using Lynette, the free character that you have, that you did not have to gacha for in a variety of circumstances here. And when you take these characters out into any of the other areas, there's no disadvantage. And that's my problem. It's just a bit too much, and I don't like that. Unfortunately, well, this is an interesting idea that I've just had right now. If you could argue that the balance of Fontaine characters are related to these mechanics, and that if you have enemies and bosses that do not have like disabling mechanics that you need Ousia or Pneuma for, then you could probably argue that it might be fair, but we'll have to wait and see whether the balance for upcoming characters is such that they gain more of an advantage against specific enemies, but in a more general case, they lag behind the other characters. So that would be an interesting thing from a combat perspective to see. But nonetheless, from my perspective, it's just too much. It's just too much that's been tacked on. What I would like from Genshin to do is to actually give all vision holders some sort of slow meter that charges whilst they're in Fontaine. So you can have either a Pneuma or Ousia block, or you can have one by default here. And then what that allows you to do is like have a little meter, as you can see here. So I'm pointing to Kokomi's health bar, a little meter under here that charges over time so that you don't need to pick up any blocks. And what I would even like for them to do is to then allow you to still do, like, let's say a dolphin dive here with Kokomi, but that a portion of your meter here that's naturally charging expires. I think that would have been a much fairer way to implement these characters. So yes, there is a bit of a uniqueness to Fontaine characters, but the other characters still get a benefit, because from a lore perspective, if you do the world quest, the one that was close to the statue here, the guy very explicitly says that all vision holders can freely swim underwater here in Fontaine. So it's not like I'm special because I'm from Fontaine that I can dive without needing an oxygen mask or whatever. It's any vision holder. So I would have really loved for them to really tie in this theme more naturally, and then just say, well, because Fontaine characters have always been in Fontaine, they're more attuned to using the Pneuma and Ousia elements, and therefore they have a slight little bit of an edge. I think zoning it down or just reworking in that way would have been much fairer. But in any case, that's what I have to say. That's my commentary on it. Yeah, Clementa, sorry, I can't pronounce it. Feel free to comment on this if you agree, disagree, or anyone else. I mean, this is just going to be a conversation point where we discuss a bit of like game design, but that's my feelings on this. All right, guys, I'm going to be off swimming. Have a good day and keep well. Cheers.